Welcome to the channel and this From the Forge video. I am Triple D, the Astartes Crusader, and today we're going to be building Morvenn Vahl, the Abbess Sanctorum of the Adepta Sororitas. This is the first of the build videos that I'm going to be doing for the dztv Hobbypocalypse 2 series. dztv I hope you're aware of if you've found my channel. If not, head over to dztv.com. It's a business between that runs with Winter's SEO and Liam Dempsey. They produce sort of battle reports and Warhammer 40,000 content. It's my favourite repository of 40k goodness, and they're running the Hobbypocalypse 2 this year, which is essentially, if you are aware of the old sort of White Dwarf Tale of Gamers series, essentially it's a method of building yourself an army over 6 months, constructing and painting 250 points a month. So my first contribution to this series will be this build video for Morvenn Vahl. If you have a look on my channel, there should be by now a playlist set up called Hobbypocalypse, and in there I'll be linking all the videos that I do for this this challenge. I'm looking at doing sort of build videos, painting tutorials for the scheme that I'm going to use. I'll also try and put some narrative stuff in there, and any battles that I managed to get in with the fledgling army will go in there as well. Excuse me. Right, so without any further ado, let's get cracking. You can see on the screen I've got all the parts clipped from the frames and ready to go. Anyone that's seen one of these build videos before will be sort of aware of how I like to run them. Basically, I get everything ready in advance and put the kit together, and sort of just identify any areas where there are sort of any tricky parts, or anything that I would sort of advise, given my experience, is kept as sort of a sub-assembly for painting. I'm probably going to be looking at doing quite a few sub-assemblies on this particular model, because this army I'm going to look at using my airbrush quite a bit for the paint scheme that I've chosen. This particular model will actually be a different paint scheme to the rest of the army, and that's because she is a High Lord of Terror and therefore wouldn't necessarily just go around wearing the armour of a local sort of minor order of the Sisters of Battle. So we're going to start with this armour section here. I do just generally follow the instructions as they're set out in the kit to start with. I mean, obviously this is the only one of these models I've built to this point, and quite often what I'll do is actually I'll try or build one kit and then film the video for the second, but I'm not going to have that luxury with this particular project, as I've not got any duplicates of anything of any significance in there. So I'm going to be making this up as I go along, but hopefully 20 odd years of experience of building GW kits will help me in terms of how I sort of managed to put it together, and where I think there may be sort of places where you can sort of save yourself some future headaches in terms of the kit. So this is sort of the shoulder section. Morvenn's head is going to come into that hole in the end, and this sort of is a headpiece for the armour that sits there sort of comfortably above her head height. And this one is just a simple glue together. So I'll try and I haven't yet managed to get hold of any extra thin plastic cement, which is a shame. I am looking to get hold of some of that at some point, but sadly, with hobby funds being what they are, actually buying the army took priority. I do have an affiliate link to Element Games, which I will endeavour to put in the description of the video, and that will give me 5% kickback on any spends you make or any purchases you make if you use the link to go to their site. You've probably seen several similar links at various places around the internet. I think a lot of people have got them, but rest assured, any purchases made using my affiliate link will be most gratefully received, and will go towards funding the rest of this project. So the second section we are looking at here, this will be the shoulder joint, and so these two parts just push together there, so that shoulder joint sort of sits here, just like that, in there. And then the sort of the shoulder mounted missile racks will sort of sit just in front of that when the model is finished. So again, we're just following the basic instructions in the kit at the moment, trying to keep the glue to a minimum, so that it doesn't sort of spread out and seep out all over the place when you press the parts together, because it's a pain to get rid of if you do get that glue sort of poking out around the edges. You do need to do some cleanup of that if that happens. So we will then this is where I'm going to sort of slightly deviate from the instructions. The instructions tell you to put the glue on this piece here, which actually, when you look at it, that would end up in quite a bit of glue, let's just use that spear there. So that would end up with there being quite a bit of glue in this area here. So actually I'm just going to pop the glue one dot to either side, and that will just make sure that again we're minimizing any sort of glue spreading out from where it's actually making contact and doing the job it's supposed to. Because you can see in there, look, that bar is now dry, whereas if we'd put the glue on that whole bar, there'd be a whole system, sort of run of glue along there that we don't really want. So we'll just pop that to one side and then take the two pieces for the other shoulder mounted launcher. The reason we've got pipes on this one is because this connects to heavy bolter. I'm calling it heavy bolter. I'm sure there's a very specific name for it, because she's that kind of a character. It'll be a relic of some kind, but we all know what it is and what it does. So again, just pop in some glue on there, pressing that together, and then we'll just check and make sure that the other side works in the same way. Yeah. So what you can see here actually, and I'll just show you what I've done. There's so the bar that you can see on the shoulder joint here rests here and here, but this outer piece also sits flat against the shoulder joint. So actually what you can do is, when you've got this bit stuck together, just drop a little run of glue around there, just as an alternative way of fixing this piece onto the main body. And there we go, you can see it's already starting to take shape. I was in two minds as to whether or not to include Morvenn Vahl in the army when I decided to do a sisters army, mainly because I tend to shy away from doing armies that have named characters in them. The reason for that is because if I do an army with a named character, then that sets that army very much into a specific narrative, and a narrative that I'm things may happen then to that character that I don't necessarily want to happen to it, and you're sort of stuck with it at that point. So I tend to prefer to come up with my own characters, and sort of write them into the army that way. But it's such a gorgeous model, I couldn't not include it in the list in the final army. So just diverting, what I am again going to deviate from the actual sort of written instructions here. What the instructions tell me to do is to glue these two pieces together first, and then to attach them to the back of the armour piece. However, I think it's probably going to be easier for me to just put a little spot of glue on there, put this piece in, which does only go in one way. If you can see, there's a little tab at the top of the hole there, that points up towards the top of Morvenn Vahl's armour. So this piece can only fit in one way, which is always good, because Games Workshop do have a tendency to make kits where you can go wrong in the building of them. And then similarly, what we're going to do is then going to just put a little dot of glue in there, one in there, and this is then going to plug onto the back there. So you could, I think I probably will actually, is also just get a tiny little dot of glue onto here where that pipe connects, just so that in the future when the kit is built, this pipe isn't under threat of sort of moving around and snapping off. You could probably leave it unglued if you wanted to, but in doing so I think you do run the risk that something nudges that, and if it's not glued, then the temptation is always there for it to move and waggle, and because it's such a thin pipe, it could very easily snap. So the next piece is the front panel for the main body. So just dry fitting that to see where everything goes on there. I love these little sort of sculpted sisters on the back there. That's going to be interesting to decide how I'm going to paint those up. But something I've noticed very recently is that Games Workshop kits, the detail on these plastic kits is just becoming unbelievable. I've been painting a Thunderhawk for Aeronautica, and the quality of sort of the work on the kit, every piece, every panel line is there from the original Forge World sort of full size. Well, not obviously full size, but the large Forge World model. Every detail of that model is on the plastic Aeronautica kit at 4 inches long. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, it makes it a real sort of project to paint if you're planning on doing sort of real justice to the kit in terms of spending the time and the effort painting it. You can certainly dry brush them and get a very passable sort of decent tabletop standard finish just with sort of base coats and a dry brush on that model. But I wanted to go something a bit more in depth with mine, and as such it's taking quite a while. So we are now into the arms. Now what we've got, I don't know if you can see these pieces here, we've got 2 sections. There's Morvenn's actual arm holding sort of a joystick type arrangement with some piping that goes back into the model. And then there's this piece which appears to be some kind of sort of servo strut to sort of presumably mimic that movement of her arm into the sort of the wider warsuit that she's wearing. However, those arms come in here. That's where the servo strut attaches, and that's where the arm attaches. So they'll be in this location here. So I think what I'm inclined to do in this point, and for this piece, is I will attach those two parts together, but I think I'll probably then leave them off for painting, just so that I can more easily get a brush into these areas if I need to. I haven't yet decided completely on exactly where all the colours are going in the scheme, and what I don't want to do is sort of scupper myself for the future in terms of putting some plastic in the way of something that I will be wanting to paint. If it turns out when I get round to it that actually I don't need to be sort of put any detail in there, I can always come and attach these arms at that stage. I am intending on painting this model largely in sort of a pale white and silvers to sort of essentially convey sort of the idea of purity, and obviously being a High Lord of Terror, I'm into the seminal image, if you like, for me of the Emperor is the old Mike McVeigh diorama where the Emperor was fighting Horus and the Emperor's got sort of this beautiful white armour on with gold sort of trim. And what I'm thinking is that sort of if the Emperor wears white with gold trim, then Morvenn Vahl, who is sort of the Abbess Sanctorum of the Adepta Sororitas, is probably likely to be wearing something similarly pure, but probably, in my view, without quite the ostentation of gold. As nice as the Games Workshop paint job, or the heavy metal paint job on her is with the golden armour, I'm going to be going white and silver because I think it suits the character and sort of the, if you like, almost the modesty of Morvenn Vahl better. So this piece goes on in a similar way. This is a very, very fine connection. And as you can see, I was just sort of offering the two parts up just to see whether or not they were likely to get in the way of any painting, and I've certainly come to the conclusion that I think leaving it off for now is going to be of benefit when it comes to painting the final model. So we'll leave those off there. For anyone following on from the instructions, we're now moving on to page 2, and this will be the heavy bolter arm that is going on next. Sorry, I do have a tendency to have the pieces slightly off to one side. It's mainly because obviously the lens on the camera is at the top end of the camera and it's sideways. I'm sat holding the pieces sort of dead centre to the tripod that I've got for the camera, and of course it's not quite central on the screen, but hopefully I've managed to keep everything in front of the screen so far. So that's just a nice simple sort of front and back of the heavy bolter arrangement, and I think what we're going to see is that will slot in to there. Does look as though there's a very specific, yeah, here we go. So that arm is at a very specific angle, so that these pipes, which attach to the main body, then come and connect to the bottom of the heavy bolter, so these power feeds here. So when you are taking, or when you're looking at doing this kit, you'll see there's a little tag on top of this ball joint. Leave that on, because that sticks into, or fits into, that little recess in the shoulder joint there, and gives you the perfect angle on that arm for those power feeds to line up. Now, question is, do I need to leave this off, or can I get in behind there for those dials and that arm? I think I can get behind that quite comfortably, but that's another reason why I haven't put these arms on in here, because if we've got sort of two arms in this section as well as this one, and I'm trying to paint this dial here, then yeah, I'm definitely hoping that sort of having all three elements in there would definitely be tricky to get it done. However, by leaving off the sort of the smaller arms, I'll still be able to get the overall sort of feel of the model with the heavy bolter arm in there, without making sort of the future painting of the kit too awkward for myself. The other thing I think I'm going to do actually is I'll put the ammo feeds in, but I'll leave the shield off the heavy bolter, and I'll paint that separately as well, with the sort of the muzzle part sticking out the front. So that being said, let's get these ammo feeds on. So we'll start with this one, and I think we go in that way, yeah. Again, always worth dry fitting sort of parts, particularly parts like this, before you put any glue in anywhere near the model, just so that you know that you're getting them going in the right direction. The idea being here is obviously that this feed twists around to come into the main gun, and if I'd put that in the wrong way around, I would not have been a very happy person, and this may have needed to be bleeped or made not suitable for children. However, that's quite a nice ammo feed actually, that one. Not too complicated. As I said earlier, I mean, the tooling on the kit, on the mould, is exquisite in terms of the precision of these kits. Yeah, something that I've noticed from Indomitus onwards, is these kits sort of really don't need much in the way of sort of glue to actually hold them together in a lot of instances. Quite often the friction of the part, it's sort of machined to such a high tolerance that actually pieces will hold in recesses without the need for gluing, certainly without the need for any sort of significant amount of glue. see if this is one of them. Yeah, you see that? I mean, that is okay. There's a tiny amount of sort of glue escape there, but that heavy bolter part, you know, it doesn't fall out. Gluing it will certainly help, but that just goes to show sort of what a high quality these plastic kits now are, which is somewhat ironic, because the next model that I'm going to be building for this force, at least, is a fine cast model, where those tolerances are sadly not as high. I mean, that essentially then plugs in there, and we have sort of a firing shield for a heavy bolter. I'm going to leave that off for now. Now the next part, again, I think this is going to be sub-assembly time, because the next piece is the shoulder pad, which, as you can see, has got a couple of little pipes that plug in down here and sits over all of that detail, and there is no way I'm getting a brush in there. So once again, I'm going to leave this as a sub-assembly, and we'll just get a little bit of glue on there, just enough to get the two halves of the shoulder pad together. And then I am leaving that where it is, because that will just plug quite nicely over the top there when everything is dry and painted, and it'll plug in and sit quite firmly. But by leaving it off for now, I can get these armour panels painted up properly, so that if there are, or do happen to be, any sort of sneaky views of that part of the model, I've not got sort of just primer showing through. So we're on to the legs. Let's get on with the legs. Don't need to waste time here. This is just an armour panel that plugs onto the front of the leg. Something we're seeing quite a bit of with Games Workshop kits at the moment is these armour panels where the sort of the shin of the leg is separate to the rest. I don't know why they do it, but they seem to like it. I personally would prefer it if it just all came in one piece. So we're then on to this sort of, I want to say skirt, but that sort of makes, I don't know, doesn't quite sound right. So that piece goes in now. Then we've got the waist joint, which see, it's got a couple of little plugs in just to keep everything nice and simple. So we'll just add a touch of glue in there. Just like that. This peg that you can see here will then marry up with the hole in the upper body, so that you can then attach the legs, or the upper body to the legs, nice and simple. But for now we'll leave it there, because that piece then sticks on there. this sort of part of a kit where there's a nice large flat surface that you're sort of attaching to another nice large flat surface. It makes everything go on just that little bit more straightforward and smooth. And then so here we've got sort of almost the leg armour panel attached to these sort of skirts. Sorry, I can't think of anything else to call it. I'm certainly not going to try and paint it up in a tartan pattern and call it a kilt. In there. So that is one leg. Then we'll put the other leg together. So again, the shin armour comes separately. It's a little bit more understandable in this instance, given the sort of the angle of the leg and where that knee guard goes. And then this part of this skirt plugs on this side, and we've got a little nice little locator pin and hole there for that. So we'll just pop some glue in there, run a bit up like that, and then fit that together, which is looking very nice already. And then we have the other part, which similarly attaches to the back section of the leg armour, sort of in there like that. So I mean, sometimes these sorts of things, it is kind of almost a choice as to which part you glue. I'm going to, in this instance, glue the new part that I'm adding on, rather than the assembly that I've already put together. And then we'll just attach that as well. Now these skirts are, do you know what? I think what I'm actually going to do is wipe that glue off and leave these two legs separate. Again, for sub-assembly and sort of painting reasons, that leg is sort of quite easy to get into there with a paintbrush. I think if I'd sort of gone ahead and attached these, those skirts I think are intended to be separate at the front. There is not meant to join, but to try and get a paintbrush into there would be trickier. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but when you're painting something like this, I think that the easier the job you make for yourself, the better. So from there we've done quite a few bits so far. We've got the right arm with the spear to do, another shoulder guard, and then the head, which again I'm going to leave separate. So the arm guard here just goes in nice and simple on the arm like that. There's just that one place where there is contact, and we've got a nice little trench to drop the glue into, to avoid any sort of spillage messing up this detail on the inside of the arm there. Then we have the shoulder pad, which, if I am right in thinking, actually connects up in some way, because there appears to be a slight hole in the elbow guard there. So I'm guessing the shoulder pad fills that in somehow. So that's how it's going to look. So we'll just glue those two halves together. What I would think I'll probably do here, looking at the kit so far, and what we've got sort of built already, is again I'll keep this arm separate. I'll check the sort of how the shoulder pad looks with the arm to decide whether or not to keep that separate from the arm or not. It looks a little better in terms of going together with the rest of the kit than the other arm did. However, until you actually try these things, you're never quite sure how it's going to look. And I think so far that is proving sort of an odd enough connection that I'm going to leave it off. It looks essentially as though the shoulder guard there attaches quite neatly onto the armour rather than the arm. Sorry if I slipped off camera, out of shot there. So you can see there's a little ledge in there which connects there. So at this point I've got sort of a choice to make. Do I put the shoulder pad on the rest of the armour and plug this arm in at a later date? Or do I do what I've done on the other side, leave the shoulder pad off and attach the arm? And I think I am going to go with the latter. Partly for consistency in terms of keeping the sort of the shoulder pads as being the separate parts. Partly because actually I think fitting the arm on now and attaching the shoulder pad later is going to be far easier than attaching the shoulder pad now and trying to fit the arm under it at that later stage. So then we have the spear. And I think that plug goes there. So what we've actually got, because there's this cable here that sort of plugs in as well, and you want to make sure that you've not sort of got one part upside down or on the wrong side of the spear when you're attaching it, but it looks as though they both go in from the same direction, which is nice and simple, albeit a little bit unusual. I'm just going to put the cap back on my glue there because I think we're done with that now. And then this arm goes on the top there, and that just plugs in nicely like that. So there we have sort of the main body of Morvenn Vahl. Now, I mean, just look at the detail on this. The haft of this halberd that she's got, it's absolutely amazing. And me being me, I'm going to have to paint all of that. Never mind. It'll look good, but it's done. So the last piece that you should be left with, oh, I should just point out I'm not using the base that comes with the model for this. I'll show you in a second the base that I've got to go with it. I'm also using the helmeted head because I think that makes more sense, and I don't particularly like the face that she's got otherwise. That will just drop in there once I've painted everything else. So I'll paint the head as another sub-assembly, and that will also then let me just paint the inner part of this recesses with sort of like a cushioned look, rather than trying to paint round a head that's in there and making it difficult for my paintbrush. So there we go. Oh, I mentioned the base. So this is the base that I've got for Morvenn Vahl. It's a ruined sanctuary base from March of War. It's a resin cast, so you do need to clean it up, scrub it down with soapy water once it's done. And this particular one is one of his hero base range. So what we've actually got is we've got an insert there, which is normally removable. The idea being that you put your model on there, take that piece out for gaming purposes, and then for sort of display you drop that model back in, or drop that base, sorry, back in, and you've got slightly more of a diorama type base to go with it. However, Morvenn Vahl's base is a 60mm base, and this is a 60mm diorama base as well. So what I am going to do is I'm going to sort of fill, I've glued that sort of insert in place, so that's going to stay there, and what I'm going to do is essentially have Vahl stood something like that within this sort of ruined sanctuary area, as if she is sort of leading the Order of the Golden Thorn in reclaiming this convent on behalf of the Emperor. And then sort of that will sit on top somehow. I may need to rotate it, or sort of just look at the precise positioning of the legs and so on once the kit is built. But what I'll do, I'll paint this base separately, I'll paint the model separately, get it all assembled and stuck together, and then pop it into the base as the last part of the assembly. So that is it for this build video. What the next video that I'm going to be doing, obviously I'll be doing painting video for Morvenn Vahl with sort of white and silver. We'll see how that goes. If there isn't a painting video, it turns up for Morvenn Vahl, I assume it's not gone very well. And then we'll also be doing build videos for Canoness Viridian, although that one should hopefully not take very long because it's just quite a small kit. We've then also got the Combat Patrol, so we've got some Seraphim, Penitent Engines, some Sisters Repentia, Battle Sisters Squad, some Flagellants. There is another Canoness in there in case I want to do something different to Viridian, and a Rhino. And then the other set that I have got to be going on with is the Pergatos mission battle force that I got just before Christmas. So we've got another 10 Sisters squad in there. We've got the Exorcist, assisted Dogmata at the front there, some Celestian Sacrosancts, and an Immolator. Very much looking forward to sort of building these kits and seeing how they come together. and doing some more build videos for you. But until then, be safe and keep on rolling.